Okay. Welcome to everybody to the Rotary Club of New York, Club number 6 official Zoom luncheon meeting today. It is October the 6th, and we have a very excellent speaker today, Stephen Levine, and he will be introduced very, very shortly by our President-elect, Julie Galanti. So I welcome you all again, and I will pass the word directly to Julie. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So I'm excited to introduce Steve Levin, who is the president and CEO of SolarOne. Previously, he was in the city council in New York City for 12 years and did a lot of amazing work, especially in housing and advocacy for his constituents. But he has this new role that he just started in January with SolarOne, and they do incredible work, not only in Manhattan, but also all 5 boroughs. And he's gonna share their scope and their breadth of the great work that they do. So I'm gonna pass it over to Steve.
Thank you, Julie. Good afternoon, everybody. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to meet with you all this afternoon, and I want to thank Julie, who's been a fantastic member of the SolarOne board and was very helpful to me in particular as I came into this role as the CEO, stepping into the role succeeding Chris Collins, who was our executive director for 17 years and built up this organization from only 2 staff members to now almost 50 staff members. And we have an annual budget of a little over $5 million. We're a nonprofit and are very excited to be doing the kind of work that we do. And I'm happy to share with you a little bit about what we do day to day and our mission and how we hope to contribute to a greener, more sustainable New York City. And so with that, I think if it's okay, I'll share my screen. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I can share. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm just going to share here. Let me know. Are you all seeing the screen there?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. I have 2 monitors, and the other one I have a picture of my kids. So if you're seeing my kids, that's the wrong monitor. But I think you're seeing the right one. So as this says, it's SolarOne is New York City's green energy education resource. And let's see. So our mission, we're a 501c3 organization, nonprofit, whose mission is to design and deliver innovative education, training, and technical assistance that fosters sustainability and resiliency in diverse urban environments. We empower learning that changes the way people think about energy, sustainability, and resilience by engaging and educating a diverse set of stakeholders and beneficiaries. We help individuals and communities explore new ways of living and working that are more adaptive to a changing world. And as you can see the quote here from one of our students, our vocational students, this is Lucia, who said, "Solar jobs are the future. There are so many problems with the environment and global warming that will affect our future. We are the future. We need to make the earth better." Now we have 5 core programs that I'll tell you about. And as I said, we have about upwards of 50 employees, just about. We're about 46 to 50, somewhere in that range. Our 5 key program areas, as you can see here, these 3: Green Design Lab, that is our K-12 environmental education programming. So we are in over 100 schools. We're in 120 schools. These are New York City public schools. We have trained, this is just for 2021, we trained over 500 teachers and reached over 5,000 students. This is K-12 STEM curriculum and activities, educating about energy, climate change, and career opportunities. This ranges from the lighter touch of teaching the teachers and essentially working with teachers to classrooms is centered around climate change and sustainability. But it goes even more in depth, where we're working over the course of a summer or over the course of a semester with a smaller cohort of high school age students on career and technical education. So we are giving them experiences around internships that help them explore what green jobs will be looking like in the future. So this is really about developing the next generation of leaders, and frankly, these are not just leaders somewhere in some far distant time. This is the leaders in the next decade or two that are really going to be stepping into the role of advancing climate solutions, and so it's really investing in the young people to be the people that are going to be delivering all of these innovative solutions that we're going to need. The green workforce training, as you can see, over 400 students trained in 2021, with over 500 certificates awarded to those students. This is really about the training the green workforce of today and into the near future. So this is about working with unemployed, underemployed New Yorkers, people with barriers to employment, people with criminal justice involvement, and making sure that they have the skills, the hard skills training, to go out there and get employment in renewables today. So our workforce programming, we do that on site here in our office and workforce lab here in Long Island City. On any given day, we have somewhere between 20 and 45 students here every day that are working in multiple classes. And these could be around green building operations and maintenance, green construction, HVAC systems, solar installation, plumbing systems, so a wide range of skills training. And then along with that are the is the theory behind that. So these classes usually run between 3 and 7 weeks, depending on what our partner organizations are looking to provide. And so we work with other nonprofits who they may have a workforce contract with the city, state, or federal government, where their job is to recruit workforce students, provide the wraparound services, some of the softer skills, so resume, and the broader recruitment. And then we're then contracted to do the hard skills classroom training. And again, we do that all on site here. And then Here Comes Solar as our technical consulting, or technical assistance. And this is really innovative. As you can see, over 400 projects installed to date, 447 affordable housing projects, with almost 800 more projects committed, or 800 projects in total committed. And these are getting solar or other renewables onto the rooftops of affordable housing developments in New York City, public housing developments. We've worked with nonprofits or civic organizations like the Brooklyn Public Library, volunteer ambulance corps, to get renewable and sustainable power onto their rooftops. This represents a really strong program at SolarOne. We have, I think at this point, 17 staff members that are part of the Here Comes Solar team, and we work with the City of New York City Housing Authority, so public housing, the Housing Preservation and Development, HPD, and we are really the technical consulting for the city to get solar onto rooftops in low-income housing and middle-income housing. The other two main programs that we have, we in addition to all of this, and this goes back to the founding of this organization, we manage a really interesting park on the east side of Manhattan. So this is between 23rd Street and 18th Street along the river. And if you're familiar with that area right now, there is this massive east side coastal resilience to build a seawall so that to prevent from future flooding events along the lines of Hurricane Sandy. We are right there along that seawall. And so the park that we run is actually under construction right now. We hope to have half of it reopened in the coming weeks. We're working with the city's Department of Design and Construction and their contractors. Everything is for the northern half of the park has been built, and we're literally at the point now where we're planting the plants in the next couple of weeks. And as part of that, we are, and it's been a longstanding priority for Solar One, building a new building there in the park, right at around 23rd Street, between 23rd and 22nd Street. You can see here in this picture, that's the FDR Drive right there. And this will be an environmental education center that will be net zero building with solar panels and battery backup. So this is an important part of resiliency, is making sure that to be entirely sustainable, if there's ever a blackout event, this would provide the emergency electricity through the solar panels, charging the batteries, and then if there's no sunlight out, the batteries being able to operate. So there will be no need to be drawing down from the electrical grid, or if the electrical grid is out, it can do this on its own. No need for a generator or any type of greenhouse gas emissions. So this is a truly sustainable and resilient building, and we're working with the city's Department of Economic Development, the Economic Development Corporation, to build this building, and we are on track to have it built by the end of 2024. So we're moving into the construction design phase of construction in the coming days. And then lastly, we have what's called the Clean Energy Communities Program. This is through the state's NYSERDA, which is the state's energy department. And in this program, we have staff at Solar One, who are our staff, who are then embedded into the city's mayor's office, into DCAS, which is the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. They run all of the buildings, the city-owned buildings in New York City. And we're looking at also having staff embedded into the Department of Buildings. And this is to help the city achieve its sustainability goals. So essentially, we're the state has funded us to embed staff into the city's offices to help them meet their sustainability goals. And that's our fifth program. We're very proud of all the work that they do. So here are some kind of some nice photographs that you can kind of see really what we're out there doing, and it's remarkable. It's wonderful to see incredibly dedicated staff, and a lot of staff who are committed to making sure that we're doing everything we can locally to impact climate change here in New York City. And one of the more impactful statistics that I have go back to a lot is that 7 our greenhouse gases are emitted in New York City, not through cars and not through transportation or anything like that, but from our buildings. So 70% of our greenhouse gas impact, our carbon footprint, is coming from our buildings. So if we're going to make an impact here in New York City on climate change, it has to come from reducing our energy consumption in our buildings, and making sure that we're reducing any greenhouse gas emitting forms of energy. And so The way that I think Solar One is that as an organization really embodies the when you think about the mantra of uh, think globally, act locally. That's really what we do because we are thinking about these big, massive challenges that we're facing as a world. The big challenges around climate change, um, existential challenges. Um, but how do instead of despairing, what Solar One does is we're figuring out ways um, to act locally and make a change here in New York City. And then because we're the largest city in America, we can really create a movement here. And so that's what we're all about. So yeah, I'm just thrilled to be part of this organization. And again, we have this amazing board of directors. We're very dedicated, and Julie is. When I first came on, I mean, she really helped me with my onboarding, and made sure that I knew the important things to keep an eye out for, and how to ensure that as an organization it is remaining healthy and thriving and viable into the future. So very much appreciate all that she's helped with, and these are just a little bit more kind of in depth about our goals with each program. But I'm happy to take any questions, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to present.
Thanks, Steve. Nice job. I will just say that I'll manage the questions. I'll just raise your hand. But we are having a Power Up with Solar One event on October 13th. So I extend an invitation to all the Rotarians to come and see firsthand the workforce development space and where the brains of the operation run, and to meet the staff who are so passionate about the work, as well as the board members. So I'll share the information with Andreas to share with all of the Rotarians. So anyway, does anybody have any questions for Steve or about the program? All right, Thomas, so you're on mute. So just unmute yourself. Oh, you're still on mute. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
We
Okay,
can.
very good. Okay, thank you so much. Keep up the good work. It's such important work. But I
Thank
want to just ask you a question. I have the proverbial cabin in the woods in Pennsylvania. As a project, I was going to convert the cabin to a solar house. Just as a experiment, really. And I looked into it, and I just wanted to supply a few light bulbs, be able to recharge my phone, and maybe run a flat screen TV, low energy consuming flat screen TV. And even if I was really lucky, maybe to get a ceiling fan working. But when I went to a supply house to look at solar panels and batteries, I found the cost very, very prohibitive, where it just wasn't worth and I happen to be a mechanical contractor myself, so I was going to do the work myself, install the panels, and I was just trying to price out the material. If I can make this house where I won't have to use electricity that's supplied from the local power, which happens to be the same power company as 3 Mile Island, ironically enough. Was I miscalculating this somehow, or does that sound about right to you, that it isn't feasible? Because it looks like it would cost me thousands of dollars to save pennies off my electric bill. Am I right or wrong?
So the cost has come down just in recent months because of the federal Inflation Reduction Act. How that affected the cost of solar is that it extends the tax credit, which had been declining and was going to sunset, which was 25 cents, was going to go down to 22 cents on the dollar. That has been increased to 30 cents on the dollar, and now has been extended out for 11 years. And so what that will do is help. First off, it will reduce the cost by providing a higher tax rebate. But in addition, it'll actually help the overall industry invest in R&D and expanded operations. And so what we would expect out of that is that there's going to be a large investment in on the supply side in solar and other renewables, and so we do expect the costs to come down as a result. And so, obviously there's a little bit of give and take on that, because there's some supply chain issues that have caused some of the raw materials to go up. But I think long term, out into the over the next decade, we're going to expect to see a significant increase in supply to meet that demand, and hopefully that'll bring costs down. But I think the big change really was this this longer runway of the tax credits that the Inflation Reduction Act did.
Great, thank you. So let's see. I also just want to take a minute just to welcome Theo, who's tuning in from Germany, and ask Marianne Kamada and Henry Fempler to introduce themselves. So hold on one second. So do we have any questions before I do that?
Me.
Okay, Vivian.
I'm just concerned about whether or not the United States is investing in the basic, the basic components of solar energy, the chips, whatever the minerals are that are necessary in order to collect the agency. Are we getting anywhere on that, or is that still, say, primarily a Chinese monopoly?
Most of there's a little bit of production that comes out of the IRA as well.
Mm-hmm.
Production support, but largely the components are largely manufactured overseas, and that's still the case. So a lot of the components that we work with are manufactured overseas, and there's the economics of it are not quite working for the production to be over here. It's certainly something that we're looking at, and we had somebody reached out to me recently who had, as a result of the IRA, a client that was looking at investing in production, and so we started to see if there was any new activity going on there. All that said, there is a lot of economic activity around installation and other components that that are not necessarily the panels themselves, but other the steel that's used to the ballast to install the solar. But and then a lot of work to actually get the solar panels up and running and maintained. There's a lot of economic opportunity in the United States for that, and that's where we're seeing a lot of the economic impact here is investments in those types of companies. For example, if in a company that is largely doing installations in areas of the country where it's more prevalent, so Southwest or West Coast, areas that tend to get more sun, or have easier regulations to deal with, we might see them now investing in a Northeast operation or a New York City operation. So bring to bear some of their market capacity and R&D and market insight into this region where they may have stayed away before because they didn't see the long-term commitment that now the IRA actually provides, that 11-year higher level of tax rebate that kind of looks more sustainable. It's worth more for them to now invest in that, in building up the capital to operate in different regions or with different capacities.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
Tilo has raised his hand.
Oh,
Ah.
Malika, do you have a question?
Tilo was first.
Yeah,
Yes.
Malika, ladies first.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Congratulations, Stephen.
Thank you.
It's really the subject that everybody's talking about, energy and the cost of energy are now very high on everybody's agenda, even at the household level. In my building, they're asking us to unplug the toaster when it's not working. It has always run. I mean, it has always been plugged day and night up till now. I didn't know that I was consuming energy that way. So now this solar energy, I would love to visit one of these projects, by the way. I heard that it was very costly to install, and it will take a long time to really get a return on investment. Something else, it can only it can only capture energy when there is, in the summer, when there is sun, like today. Well, today it's a bit sunny, but the past 4 days it's been winter. So how do you balance the whole thing? And is it going to work in the winter?
So yeah, so it does work in the winter. So if you take a look at this this picture right here, you see this. So what we do at Solar One, what our staff does is, I'll use for an example a co-op in New York City. So it could be a multifamily co-op, say 12 units in the Bronx. Our staff will take we'll use Google Maps and other mapping to identify the location, look at things like the amount of shade it gets, whether there's any nearby buildings that are blocking the sun. So we'll be able to identify using a computer program called Helioscope, really a good estimate as to how much sun they get throughout the course of the year. So then we estimate based on how many panels that they could fit on their roof. We'll be able to produce a savings estimate. And then we also are able to put together then the cost of installation. There are different installation models. You can buy the panels yourself, or you can actually lease out your roof and have a third party own the panels. And then while you don't own the panels, you actually don't have any of the upfront costs. It's called a power purchase agreement. So there's a model where it's essentially you're leasing out your roof, and usually for a multifamily building in New York City, we see the payback period as somewhere between 5 and 7 years. In other words, for your upfront costs, this is after your tax rebates and any other incentives that the city or state will be giving. That cost will be the payback period will be around 5 to 7 years. After that time, you're just looking at savings. So whatever you're saving off of your electrical bill throughout the course of the year, it's pure savings. There will be no additional cost other than a little bit of routine maintenance. So that's what we're usually looking at with a multifamily building is 5 to 7 years. So if the upfront cost is $25,000 or $30,000, it'll take about that time in terms of the savings. So there's real savings that get generated. And the way that it works with the grid is that you're still tied into the grid in New York City. So you're still drawing off power from the grid, but you're also then supplying power into the grid. So you then get a credit for the power that you're generating. And that reduces, and the environmental benefit there is that you're reducing the city's reliance on fossil fuel generated power plants, particularly at high consumption time. So the city has these things called peaker plants, where in high demand times, so when in July, on July afternoon, when everybody's running their air conditioner, the city will turn to a peaker plant that's really only running for 2 or 3, 4 weeks a year, but they charge astronomical, burn a lot of very dirty fossil fuels to generate their power, and they're just there to be turned on a couple of weeks a year, but they are able to charge so much because people need the power at those peak times, that they're able to, that their business model turns a profit that way. And so this is a way of as much as can be generated through solar panels, and we call it distributed generation. So it's it's putting power into the grid in a way that's distributed. It's like grassroots as opposed to consolidated. So that's kind of the theory behind it on a macro level. But on a micro level, about 5 to 7 years for a multifamily building is the payback period.
It's complicated, but I think we're getting there, right?
It's an important part of it's one part of the equation of how we get to a fossil fuel free New York City. Basically, there's other ways of doing it where you have large consolidated utility scale renewables. So that would be, large wind farms out in the Atlantic Ocean, large solar farms upstate, that are using massive power lines that are bringing it down into the city. Hydro-Quebec, so using water power from Quebec. These are large scale projects that will supply, eventually those will be supplying 70% of the power to New York City through renewable sources. And this is a portion of it. This will be, if this is 15% in 15 years, I think that will make a difference. Distributed solar generation won't ever power 100% of New York City's electrical needs, but it will be it could be an important component to it, 15% or 18% maybe.
Great, thank you, Malika.
Thank
Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, Tilo.
Yeah. Thank you for the interesting
Okay.
presentation. I'm zooming in from Wiesbaden, Germany, on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Sorry, I tuned in a little bit late. I was in a meeting, but I just wanted to ask one question. Maybe it was answered already because I was late. But some months ago, Elon Musk announced that he would become big in the solar panel roof tiles business. And I just, it's not available over here in Europe yet, but I just wanted to know if you have any experience with this specific product.
Not personally, but I know that, Tesla makes solar products and battery products.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's actually one area that we have been working on, which is not. But I know that it's a product that's out there and is well regarded and used. The battery backup actually is something that we are pioneering within New York City. It's a very kind of odd niche, but we have a program run through the governor's office. Library.
Oh, you sound or no?
Oh, sorry.
I think
Am I
you
still
froze
there?
for a second, Steve.
Oh,
Yeah, you froze.
Oh, it's saying my connection is unstable. So can you hear me okay now?
Yeah. Would you just repeat the last half hour?
I tell people rewind 30 seconds. So we have this like a demonstration project that we're doing with the governor's office. We've been working on this for the past 6 years, where we are doing these small scale resiliency hubs. So we'll have solar panels plus battery backup on site. So on the rooftop of a building, there will be batteries like you would see in a Tesla, but they're mounted to the building. And these are with a few libraries, with volunteer ambulance corps, mostly in areas that were really hit by Hurricane Sandy, where there was long-term outages, 5-6 days of outage, and so this will allow for those, for the volunteer ambulance corps, for their garage door to go up and down so that they can respond to calls. And what our staff just got, our staff member, our director Angelica Rondari just got just this week noted as one of 12, I think, honorees by the U.S. Department of Energy for her work on this, of women in the energy sector. And what she did that's so interesting is she has been able to figure out the bureaucratic hurdles with the fire department, with the FDNY, to figure out how to get these things permitted. So it's not a very glamorous accomplishment necessarily, but in its own way, it's revolutionary, because it's really the first time that the fire department of New York is allowing battery backup to be mounted onto buildings. And in 10 years' time, my hope is that we'll see this really proliferate around New York City, and there'll be 10,000 examples of it. But these were the first, and she really pioneered how to get FDNY to permit these. It's somewhat comical sounding. She had to find a producer who was, because the challenge with these batteries, they're lithium ion batteries. They're large scale. When they go on fire, if they were to ignite, you can't put them out with any traditional fire equipment. So a fire extinguisher wouldn't put out the fire because they continue to burn. And so the company that she's been working with has figured out a fire suppression system. And they had to actually do a demonstration where they blew up one of their batteries upstate and then demonstrated how they could put out the fire. And that was how the fire department of New York was able to know that that particular company knew how to do a fire suppression system with these batteries.
Great, thank you. I know Tom wants to share something with the Rotary Club. Do you want to go, Tom?
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Julie. Okay. And Stephen, thank you for that answer about my cabin in the woods, about getting some light bulbs. But is it feasible without a tax credit? I need it. Is that, well, you was recommending I try to get a tax credit?
Well, you'll qualify for a federal tax credit of 30%.
But it doesn't pay on, so it only pays with a tax credit. I can't just purchase the panels and do it. It wouldn't make economic sense. It wouldn't work.
It would take, the payback period would probably be very long, especially if you're for a cabin where you're not using a lot of electricity.
Sure. Okay.
But I know our board chair, actually, Sarah Queen, has a cabin in Vermont that she did solar panels on. So
yes, okay. The other problem there is electricity. I live on Long Island, where electricity is very expensive per kilowatt. But with my cabin, electricity is very inexpensive. So it's even a longer pay. When you start doing the numbers, it says this doesn't make sense. Okay. So thank you very much for that information.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I just want to say to my friend, Malika, nice to see you. And our Rotary Club, I just want to conduct a little bit of Rotary business right now with a Christmas holiday season coming. We have a lot of things going on, and our club is raising money now to provide warm winter jackets to the veterans on East 23rd Street. And we're going to provide warm jackets to the men veterans. And we also have 50 women veterans that are in the hospital that are asking for warm boots. And our foundation is going to be paying for most of it. And we have a lot of members who've already chipped in. And just like any of our Rotarians who'd like to get involved with that, please, it's very easy. You just go right onto our website and you just use PayPal, and you can make a a modest donation and earmark it for the veterans on East 23rd Street in Manhattan. Okay, I just wanted to get out. And then we also have the toy drive coming out. Malika, I know you worked with me on this before in past years. We submitted the application for that. And that's where, and if any Rotarian who would like to be part of that, we need you to purchase toys. We'll give the club will give you the money to purchase the toys. And we've been working with this soup kitchen in Harlem for 25 years, and we're going to be doing it again this December. And again, the same thing. If you'd like to be part of this, please contact me or Andreas. And if you'd like to purchase, just to buy, do the actually buying of the toys online or go out shopping, and then I'll get them to the building where Santa will hand the toys out to the kids. And normally it's about 3,000 kids a year that show up with their mothers, and it's a wonderful day. And I was invite everybody, all the Rotarians to come on, and guests, of course, to come up and see it. It's a very festive day. And some have say it's the largest, the most festive toy drive in Manhattan every year. So please join us. And we're also working on, and if you just, again, very easy to participate financially, or we could use you to purchase the toys physically. And we're also working on Rotarian relief in Fort Myers, Florida. And if you'd like to get involved with that, just contact me. We're already in contact with 4 or 5 Rotary clubs in Fort Myers, which was severely hurt. And even Rotarians have been devastated. They tell me they can't even hold, life is so bad in Fort Myers, they can't hold their Rotary meetings. There's not enough electricity to have Zoom meetings, or restaurants are all closed down. Okay, thank you very much, Andreas. And I just wanted to get that out. And then if you can always contact me if you like to get involved in these few projects that are coming up in the next month or so. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you, Tom. Does anybody have any other questions? All righty, so before we go, I want to just extend a huge thank you to Steve for his presentation today and sharing with us the great work of Solar One. And I want to invite everybody on this call to come to our open house to see the workforce development facility, which is really inspiring, and to meet some of the staff and have them share their work directly with you. You know, Solar One is a nonprofit, and so we really do rely upon the generous donations of people. So if you're interested in making a donation to Solar One, I'm going to be preparing an application for the foundation to support Solar One and their great work. And we'll invite Steve next year to give us an update. So if there's no other questions, I will turn it over to Andreas to end the meeting.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julian. Obviously, thank you very much, Stephen. Very, very enlightening discussion. And I thank everyone who was able to join today. Yeah, there's nothing else to say really for today. We're going to close a little bit early, so 15 minutes to go. But thank you all for joining. And you will also be receiving more information about that event as well as the recording. So thank you so much.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you.